Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Hi, I'm Rox Berkey, and I am so delighted this evening to have one of my favorite people and authors, Grace Blair, join us to talk about Einstein's compass. Welcome, Grace.
Oh, thank you, Rox. It is so much of a pleasure to be here with you.
This is really exciting, and I have a lot of things I want to make sure that you share to all the listeners today. So let's just jump right in with Einstein's compass. It is a young adult time travel story that I've read, and I mean, it's fabulous. So how did you get there?
It's a fabulous story. The adventure started in 2012. I came up with the idea of what if Einstein met spiritual beings who helped him create his miracle theory. Well, it wasn't until 2014, you know how these things germinate, where the story really started to come to me about where Einstein was in his life at the time he received his compass as a boy. And when I was starting to do my research, I discovered that there really was something magical that happened in the Bible called the Shamir stone. And the Shamir was actually used in Solomon's temple to build the temple. God did not allow Solomon to use anything that was of an axe or a war weapon. So he asked God to give him a special supernatural being called the Shamir. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's called a Shamir stone. And I put the Shamir in the compass as a supernatural way of Einstein to direct himself toward God's light. And so the Shamir became part of the story in the compass. And from there, we get the supernatural part, we get Atlantis, because let's think about it. Einstein was in the 19th century. He was in the horse and buggy days, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he comes up with this theory of light and time. I mean, where did that really come from? So I thought, well, what if his soul was really from Atlantis?
Oh, now that's interesting.
The spiritual Atlantis, of when time and light was really used as a way of transportation, of communication. I mean, these were really spiritual high beings who knew how to use light and time. And so I said, I think his soul, he was really reincarnated in his time to change the world, to change it to a new direction so that we could have technology. And the technology was of Atlantis. And so the story of Atlantis got tied in, and that also became part of the story.
I mean, it's really a fun story. And the way you go back and forth from these beings from Atlantis and have, almost like amazing evilness and amazing wonder that crossed his path as a youth.
Yes, yes.
A lot of us really know about Einstein more from an adult perspective of all these wonderful things that he created, but the youth side, I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I wanted to tell his story from the child point, and I really used his history. I went to Walter Isaacson's book on his biography, and I took it from his age 6 to 26. And no one has talked about his life as a child and what happened. He was actually he was alone in his teens. Left alone. His parents went off to Italy because his father's business was failing. And so he was left with his aunt and uncle, all by himself, a Jew in a Catholic high school. So you can imagine his feeling of being alone and lost and trying to think about, science. And he had also, by the time he was 10 years old, had mastered all of the science books of what was being taught in high school. So by the time he got to school, he was totally bored, and he couldn't learn anything. And so and you know when a kid is restless and he's smart, what happens, you know?
Oh, well, what one can't think of, the other one will. So no, it's a lot of fun, and the research is amazing. So you learn something. I learned a lot going through here. Now I know that you've designated this as a YA
Right.
travel, but you know, I'm past the YA age, and I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun to read the story from end to end, from a learning and from the imagination you put into it.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Rox. That's the way I wanted it. I wanted people to learn about Einstein, perhaps learn a little bit about what a mystical traveler is, who Jesus and Moses and Ezekiel and Akhenaten, they're all called mystical travelers. They're the spiritual beings of light. I wanted that in there. There was just an adventure. Also, the story of darkness and light. How does a person fall from grace? And that we see that as Einstein's twin brother from Atlantis falls from grace, and he becomes this evil dragon. I mean, that to me was so cool, because I needed a really strong protagonist with a character such as strong as Albert was, as a person. I really needed someone to stand up to that kind of light and energy that he was. And that's the way I found it. I found it through an evil, draconian, shape-shifting, man-eating, evil, dark person who just revels in making people have a bad day.
Good way to put it. I want to make you have a bad day. Now you have a co-author on this as well. So
Yes.
how did you guys kind of divide and conquer this?
Well, Blair Wright and I have been friends for more than 40 years. We knew each other in Miami. We're both part of a spiritual group called the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness, which is where the mystical travelers come from, and the way that we honor God. And so Laren is a professional book shepherd, or he's a professional book person who helps book shepherds. He knows the ins and outs of writing. He's an excellent writer. And he also had the background in the spiritual world that I needed to help make my work look like it was real, because he really writes these books on spirituality. And so he really finessed this book very well with the spirituality part, with helping me make the scenes look better. He just fleshed out the book much more than I could have, being a beginning writer, because I've only been doing this as a fiction writer for about 4 or 5 years. And he's been doing it all of his life. So he was a really big help in that area.
Well, and that's good. I mean, you picked up the best of the best, because it's a very compelling fiction, the way you have written it. Now, I know, because I have followed you for some time, that from the point you started talking about this and doing some of the background on it until actual release of the story, that's no short period of time.
Well, it was 4 years. 4 years. And I had the luxury of being able to do it every day. So I didn't have a job to go to. My husband, Dr. John Blair, is retired from Texas Tech. And he and I would sit at the kitchen table, and we would talk about the characters and how Arca and Raka came about. You know, they're twins from Atlantis. I mean, that just blew my mind, how we came up with that concept, the two of us after breakfast. And these research that I did, I also included Edgar Casey's research on Atlantis. And that is the most empirical evidence that we know that Atlantis really did exist, is through Edgar Casey's writings. And there are a lot of books on that. I contacted one of the experts of the Casey books, Doug Simpson, who writes We Lived in Atlantis, and I used his work from Atlantis, as well as a book called Initiation by the Nile. that also helped me with the research on Atlantis, the real spiritual Atlantis that existed, where they did use DNA to change people and make the Minotaur and all those beasts that you see that were from Greece. Those were supposed to be mythological beings. They were not. They were actually created. So the big flood happened because God said, all of these creatures have got to go. And that's when the big flood happened after Atlantis was destroyed. Everything, the whole planet, and there you get the story of Noah after that. So yeah, I tried to take what I thought were really historical facts and fiction, facts to make them into fiction and really can make it come alive.
So in writing this particular book and all of the research that you've done and the trials that you went through, was there a point in working on this book where you knew it was finally coming together as you really wanted it to be? Or was it long and drawn out the whole time? Like you mentioned the twins just now, but were there other like key moments that were, I got this?
Not really.
No?
I knew where the end was in a way. Einstein, gets his miracle theory. How did he get that? I really didn't know. And what was really important for me was to allow the story to organically be written. Not that I was really every day making it up. I couldn't make it up.
Right.
I had to go inside and really call on God and the mystical travelers and all the beings in the story to talk to me. I wanted to hear their voice. And it would come and, they don't want to talk to you unless you really want them to be there. Do you know what I mean by that when I talk about that?
I do. And I want to, that is a very perfect, exciting point for us to take a pause and hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, I want to share with our listeners a little bit more about grace, because you're a multi-leveled person as well. So stick around.
Remembrances from the Heart is a compilation book of heartfelt eulogies and poems that honor the deceased and comfort the living. Beautifully illustrated and spiritually written, published Christian author Vicki Johnson has created an artistry of words that will be healing for those suffering and inspiring to those who listen, offering a sensitive message behind each passage. Remembrances from the Heart is sold worldwide. Pick up a copy today at your favorite bookstore or at a Christian bookstore near you. Visit the official website at remembrancesfromtheheart.com for more information.
Indie Lector is a store for serious readers and indie authors. Find great talent at indielector.store and save money on books with their book club. A portion of the proceeds helps get books into schools and libraries in need. Find a great book to read by an indie author at indielector.store.
My Dream America, written by Helen Monday. A story of hopes and dreams and struggles and strengths of a young girl who wanted to come to America at age 13, came to America at age 21 with a suitcase and a guitar, a ticket for a year and a visa for 3 months, became a United States citizen at age 28. My Dream America can be purchased at Barnes & Nobles and Amazon. Written by Helen Monday.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Hey, welcome back. I am Rox Berkey, and I'm here with my friend and author, Grace Blair. Grace, when we ended that segment, we really finished kind of talking about how you put Einstein's compass together, but you have done some other work, and I think it's important for you to relate Grace to this audience that's listening. So tell us about Grace.
Well, I'm a modern mystic. I'm a spiritually oriented person who wanted to convey story, spirituality through story without making it preachy. I'm a motivational speaker. I've written several nonfiction books and narrated my own nonfiction book. Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream. And I just really am wanting to reach out to the world and say that we can be at peace if we go inside and make peace with ourselves. And that's part of my mission, is to really assist people in their life path and perhaps help them make it more easy, pleasurable, safe, and fun. And that's what we explore in the Dream Book. And I take those principles and I put them in my fiction book, Einstein's Compass.
Now, you also write under 2 different names, and I want the audience to be aware of both names that you write under, because they may want some of your other work. So Grace Blair is how you write your fictional stories. But then,
yes, Grace Allison is how I write my nonfiction. See, this is the Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream. And that has to do with Amazon, because Amazon has a problem with acknowledging one author who writes fiction and nonfiction. So that's the reason why I did Einstein's Compass under Grace Blair and Do You Have a Dream under Grace Allison. I have to have 2 separate accounts on Amazon. I know it might be confusing for people, but that's, you just have to play to what the rules are for Amazon today.
There you go. The technology will, or leave it, right? But it is Grace, and it's, you're not the only author on the planet to have a pseudonym, so there's nothing certainly wrong with that, but you are a very important person to know. So as we kind of let people know who you are, I think it's important that they know your social media. How can they reach out to you in social media? Because you are very active.
Yes, on Facebook, it's Grace the Mystic. On Twitter, I'm Grace the Mystic. On Instagram, I'm Grace the Mystic. And also LinkedIn, I'm Grace the Mystic. I wanted to have a brand of being the Mystic, Grace the Mystic, on all my social media. So that's how you can find me anywhere. And on my email, it's graceallisonauthor@gmail.com if you'd like to contact me. And my website is modernmysticmedia.com. And there you'll see all my books, my blog. Anything you want to know about me is on modernmysticmedia.com.
So when they're on that website, Grace, if they want to reach out to you and contact you, whether it's on your fiction or Einstein's Compass, can they do that?
Absolutely, yeah. Through my website, you can do that on modernmysticmedia.com. There is a contact page there. And also just write to me, graceallisonauthor@gmail.com.
And I know, for one, that you are an extremely responsive person. You do keep an eye on what's going on. So when you do send an email, you will get a response back from Grace. So that's awesome.
I also have a new Facebook page that I've called Finding Conversations with God. And I opened this up. It's a closed group if you want to join in. And what I wanted for people was to share if they've had an experience in their life where God influenced them in some way. What was the experience, and how did it change your life, or how did it influence your life? So there are experiences that we get all the time that maybe we don't talk about. Maybe we're afraid to share. And so this is a safe place. We've got about 20 people so far just in the last week who have signed up and that are sharing how people have come into their life. This one woman, for example, prayed to God for a husband to come forward who shared Jesus with her. And she shared about him and who he is and their life. And for me, I had a healing with the Holy Spirit. And that totally changed my life and how I see things. So I wanted to give this as an opportunity for people who are finding a conversation with God within themselves and that they want to share. Because this is all a lot. We are in a toxic environment on the planet. And I wanted to share something where we can all share in the loving and our experiences of the loving.
And I think that's awesome. I think that's a great place for people to connect with you and learn some things. And it brings up a really good point. as to, where did your overall love of books and writing and storytelling and even opening up your heart to people, where does that come from?
Storytelling, I think, really came to me more when I moved to Texas.
Okay.
The people here in Texas are storytellers. I mean, you just go into the grocery store, stand in line, and the next thing you know, you're hearing about someone's life. We just connect with each other here in Texas. And I just learned to listen to people and learn about who they are. And storytelling came from there. I think when we tell stories, we connect with people. And in this disconnected world that we're in right now with social media, we need to slow down. We need to hear each other. We need to tell each other stories. And so listening and taking in the real soul part of a person, to me, is what I learn, is how I learn about storytelling.
Okay. So that's how you learned about storytelling. So how long and why, I guess, did you start writing? Because that's not what you did for most of your life, at least not your professional career.
Well, I was in marketing and business development. I was in real estate and won some awards for marketing and Dallas Business Journal Award in 2000. But I wanted to have a big goal, something I'd never done before. And writing a novel and writing books was my goal. And so I just set about learning. I went to workshops. I started writing, and actually my job after the Dallas Business Journal Award, 9/11 happened, and my whole world fell apart. And so I asked God, what am I supposed to do? And he said, write your book. And I go, book? What book? And I had been working on a process of healing with intention and creating goals. And that's how the Dream Book came about. And this was in 2001 that I started writing this book. And it took me 2 years to write 88 pages. Yeah, and so now that 88 pages has gone into 200 pages. And it's become an audio book and 10 chapters with 140 tweets in there, and it's a journal that you can journal in. So over time, I just kept at it. I wanted to make it better. I wanted to make it reach better people in a really, really authentic way that made a difference. So I just kept at it and just saw more people, saw more workshops. And then the novel hit me that I really wanted to write fiction. Once I learned creative writing and finished my memoir or my nonfiction work, then the novel became the big goal. And I really took workshops there and sat in with writers and I wanted to learn the craft, because fiction is hard. It is really hard to connect with those characters and the story and make it all work. And you know that. You've written 10 books. I don't know how you can write a series. I wrote one book in 4 years, and believe me, I'm exhausted. I don't know how you do it.
But you've done a great job with it. And I want to take another short pause to listen to our sponsors, and then I want to come back and really kind of talk about where we can see you and a little bit of closing stuff. So stick around, Grace.
Thank you.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Love to read? Love to meet authors in person? Then check out bookfestival.network to find a book festival in your region of Texas. We are adding book festival events throughout the year, so sign up to get notices and even a coupon towards purchase of a Texas author's book. Sign up at bookfestival.network.
The Holy Spirit is gifting our children and grandchildren, and they are naturally able to show God's power to the world. Amazon bestseller Anne Lynn Noble and her granddaughter Carlisle capture insights and learnings of growing spiritually through the pages of Glow and Grow in the Grace of God. This inspirational novel provides perspectives on biblical truth from a young believer and her grandmother exploring spirituality.
Hi, thank you for coming back. I am Rox Berkey, and I'm here with my friend, author Grace Blair, the author of Einstein's Compass. It is a young adult time travel novel that is amazing, but also Grace Allison, who is the modern mystic. So Grace, thank you for coming back.
Thank you, Rox. It's really good to be here.
So in this last segment that we have, I would really kind of like to have you share with the audience some of the things that are coming up. And I think the biggest thing that's coming up is the book signing. So can you share that?
Yes. Einstein's birthday is May 14th, which is called Pi Day. Pi Day, which is 3.14. Pi is 3.14. So when Einstein was at Princeton University, they would make pies on Pi Day. And it was a big celebration. So I decided that the audiobook, which is coming out, will be launched on Einstein's birthday, which is Pi Day. And I also have planned a bookstore here in Lubbock called Josie Books. It's a new indie bookstore. I'm making a book signing at that bookstore on the day, and probably that weekend. So we're going to be celebrating Albert's birthday, Pi Day, with his audiobook and a book signing.
And where is this bookstore?
This bookstore is at Slide and 82nd, up near the UMC Medical Center, in that shopping center up there. It's a relatively new bookstore, and they're doing great things up there. I was in there today. I'm going to be putting some of my books on a consignment, as well as having the book signings. So they're very excited to have me.
I bet they are. I mean, what an honor for them to have you and have you that close. So I think that's really exciting. That and the Audible. Now, doing an Audible is a very challenging activity. So what made you decide to do that, and who's the narrator?
Actually, I was working with Richard Riemann in his group when I did my own nonfiction book, The Dream Book, as I narrated it right in this room. I recorded it right here over several days, and Richard produced it for me. And I learned that audiobooks are really selling very well, especially in nonfiction, where there's not very many, and also in this YA market, especially in the small niche that I'm in, there's not very many. So hopefully this will spur the sales, because kids are really learning to use podcasts and audiobooks more so than ebooks today, or even paperback books. They're just so busy. They're on the go, and they get their headphones on, and that's how they're learning today, is through audiobooks. So that's what really spurred me on to have Einstein's book, Einstein's Compass, also recorded. And the gentleman who is recording it, his name is Kurt Bonham, and I don't know him very well, but we are going to have an interview. I'm going to be interviewed with him in a podcast with the audiobook in mind, right after it's been recorded. So that's also going to be part of the promotion and a giveaway. We're going to have some giveaways going on at the same time. I have a marketing company, Publish, that is doing my marketing, that's helping me push out the book and do my giveaways. So there's a lot going on right now. After you become an author, as you well know, Rox, we're also the guy with the marketing hat.
That's very true. And fortunately, you really love to do podcasts. So you actually are a very active podcaster, right?
Yes, I am, right here at Indie Lector, Texas Authors. I do a podcast several times a month with various authors that are from Texas. And I really enjoy being a volunteer podcast person. It helps me learn more about other books, learn about the authors, and I can contribute in helping them get the exposure, just like what you're doing for me, so that they can get their marketing out there and get better known.
So in the minute that we have left, really quickly, tell me the best advice to a upcoming author. Short, sweet.
Okay, first of all, start marketing your book 2 years before you put out your book. Get on social media, write it once, get a good book cover, make sure it's done professionally, make sure the interior of your book is done professionally, make sure you network with other authors. Vox and I and other authors, we all help each other. This is a community of people and authors that we help each other. It's a village, it's a community. Get really involved in it. And Texas Authors is a great way, Indie Beacon, it's a great way for you all to connect and become better authors.
Thank you very much, Grace Blair, the wonderful author of Einstein's Compass. Thank you all for joining. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Rox.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.